Oh, hey, hello there. Welcome. It's me. It's time for Wisdom Wednesday. Today, we're going to learn how to make 5th edition Call of Cthulhu characters. All right, guys. This is a real fast Wisdom Wednesday. We're going to speed build some characters for the upcoming Halloween Horror Livestream, which Jordan is going to be running. Say hi to the family, Jordan.
Hello.
Here's Jenny. And we're going to make characters for 5th edition Call of Cthulhu. So, Jordan,
Yes.
we have already started this process, but just briefly get us caught up with the assignment of numbers to the characteristics, if you would.
Okay, so starting off, it's not a dice roll system for your stats. It is not a point by even, they just give you stats. So you have one number that's 80, 70, two 60s, three 50s, and a 40, and this corresponds to percentile dice, so they're all percentages. You would put them wherever you want, depending on the kind of character that you want to make. So, like the one that we already did was a character with high intelligence, so obviously you'd put like the 80 in intelligence. Because for Call of Cthulhu, the whole point of the game is to roll under whatever numbers are on your sheet.
So let me ask you a question then. We have strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence. Those all seem like familiar role-playing stats. But then you have size, education, appearance, and POW. What are those? Give us an idea about that.
Okay, so size is just your height and your weight, which become a little more important in Call of Cthulhu because it's not a fantasy setting really. So it just has to do with like how big you are, which affects other stats. Appearance is kind of charisma based. It's literally just how you look and how well you can persuade people to do things for you. Education is like intelligence, but in Cthulhu it's a little different. So education is what you normally think of intelligence. So it's like you're trained, you went to school, you know things, you read books.
Your academics,
Yes.
your book smarts.
Whereas intelligence in Call of Cthulhu is more your ability to be an investigator and put two things together and solve mysteries.
Okay.
And then power relates a little bit to constitution, whereas constitution in Call of Cthulhu is your physical hardiness. Power is your mental hardiness. So your ability to look at scary things.
So like your willpower
Yep.
and your ability to look at scary things and not lose
yeah.
sanity. So now I have as somebody who played Call of Cthulhu 2nd edition and 3rd edition, in our youth, we would always try to like get really high power because obviously we knew, from a strategic standpoint that like, oh, that's the ability to resist. But do you have to have high power? I mean, what do you think on that so far based on what you've learned?
I don't think that you need to have a super high power if you play smart enough, because you could have you could put your power in 80 every time, but there's still a chance that you'll roll above an 80, and then congratulations, you failed. Or if you have a low power, if you play smart enough where you don't need to constantly make sanity checks, then you'll be okay. And losing sanity isn't the worst thing that can happen to you besides death, but you can have your sanity knocked down a couple and still be able to play. And it actually makes it more fun. It
I
makes
like
it
that.
easier.
I like the idea of if you lose sanity, there's some risk involved.
Yeah.
I find that a lot of my past experience with Call of Cthulhu, the games ended in people going totally insane or being like institutionalized or just dead.
Yeah.
It was a pretty lethal game back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, that's not how I think of Call of Cthulhu. I think when you get knocked down sanity points, you start to get phobias, but they don't have to be like you get knocked down sanity and suddenly you're crazy and you want to kill everybody. It could be like if anybody has watched Critical Role, they did a Call of Cthulhu one-shot, and one of the players failed a sanity check seeing this like creature in a window reflection, and so their phobia for the rest of the game was anytime you see a mirror, you have to look into it because you think you're going crazy. So it doesn't have to be like game breaking. It can just be interesting.
And I think fun for those who are looking for opportunities to really stretch your role playing, I think Call of Cthulhu has that potential.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the nitty gritty. So I've started my character, who is going to be a French film professor who's teaching at this school in New England. And his name is Jean-Pierre Dupont. He is he has a high education. He's been a student and a teacher for most of his life, as well as a filmmaker. So he just has a passion for learning. However, he, like me, is also a large man. So I gave him a 70 size. And then my 60s are in int and pow. My 50s are strength, con, and appearance, and my dump stat is dexterity, because I just figure he's older, he's like out of shape like me, he has a bad back like me, his knees are bad like me. So years of working long hours on film sets and eating too much and drinking too much and smoking too much have led to a physical deterioration. Now, where do we go from here? So we figured out that hit points are determined by combining con and size. So in my case, I have a total of 120. Then you divide by 10, and so I have 12 hit points. That's my max.
Yeah.
How's your character doing?
So the one that I'm currently working on is a jock film student of that kind of archetype, and he has a 70 size and a 60 con. So that means you add them together, divide by 10. He's got 13 hit points.
Okay, pretty good. What's his highest stat?
His highest stat is strength, which is an 80.
Okay. And Jenny, what about you?
I'm working on the popular cheerleader girl, and her highest stat is appearance.
Okay. So her highest stat is appearance, and then what are her next highest stats?
In dexterity, strength.
Okay. So she's not just the popular girl who's a cheerleader, she's also like the physically fit popular girl who's a cheerleader, which my analogy for those, who like the genre would be like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer kind of character. Okay, cool. And then you also, Jordan, you made another character for somebody in the group to play who was like the smarty kid, the academic, nerdy smart kid. So what is that character's stats?
So this character's stats, they have an 80 in intelligence, 70 in education. Their 60s are in power and dex, because I figure they're a little bit of a more mental person, and then their dump stat would be in strength.
Okay. So we have a pretty good spread so far, and that's on purpose. We're purposely building this party for this adventure for the live stream to be well balanced. Now, underneath the current hit points thing, let me cut to my camera shot. Hopefully people can see that. Underneath the hit points is luck total. Now, luck total is something I roll?
Yes.
Okay.
So for luck, it's the only stat that you roll when you're creating a character. And the way that it works is you take 3d6.
Yeah.
You roll them.
Okay.
You add them together, and then you multiply that by 5, and that's your total luck.
Okay. So 3d6, add them together, multiply times 5.
Yes.
Come on, D&D dice, don't let me down, even though this is Cthulhu from another company. That's okay.
That's not bad.
All right, so 11 times 5.
Yep. So your total would be 55.
55 luck.
And for anybody who doesn't know, the way that luck works in Cthulhu, it's basically another skill roll, and it's one of the most important ones because it's talking about your ability to be in a situation and find a way out of it. So like if you were being chased through the alleys at night by some creepy cult people.
Yes.
And you said, okay, I want to get in a car and get out of there. You would make a luck roll, and so you'd want to roll below your luck, and that would be like, oh, congratulations, the car is unlocked, and you find the keys sitting on the seat, so you can start it.
Is that something you could do just any time?
Yeah, I guess it's up to GM discretion of like whether you want to do something, whether you need to make a luck roll for it.
Okay.
So if you're trying to do something like cool and heroic and whatever, I'm like, okay, then make a luck roll to see if you can do it or if something goes wrong.
Or maybe what if it's something that's not really based on your skill set, but you're just going at the you're doing the Hail Mary, you're just going for it, and that's a luck roll maybe?
Yeah, or like if all of the characters are hiding behind something and they're being chased by something, you would make a luck roll to see, does it find you? Like you might be super well hidden, but you still might have to make a luck roll to see if you can get out of
Okay,
the
so it could work in both ways.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That's at the GM's discretion. All right. Below that are a whole bunch of skills. Talk to me about how we figure out skills. Let's
Okay.
go through that really fast.
Okay, so besides each number,
Yeah.
or besides each skill, is a number.
Yeah.
And they're all pretty low numbers.
Yes.
So those are the base stats for,
For like any generic character.
yeah.
Okay.
So the
How do
way-
I get to assign things to them?
So basically, every investigator has an occupation, which is kind of like a class in D&D,
Yeah.
and you get to pick 8 skills that are appropriate for the occupation.
Okay. So if
since-
I'm a film professor, I probably wouldn't have firearms.
yeah, so
Like realistically. So the GM has to like regulate that a little bit.
So like for this, there was no like film student and film professor
Right.
class, so I just made one and I decided what I thought would be appropriate.
Okay. What skills and how do you indicate those?
Okay.
Do you fill in the little
Yeah,
squares?
so you'd fill them in all the way. So the ones that I ended up picking were art and craft,
Mm-hmm. That makes sense in the filmish way.
yeah,
Okay.
computer use because we're playing modern Cthulhu,
So computer use for video editing,
Mm-hmm.
sure.
electronic repair,
For cameras.
and then yeah,
Electronics or I see, it's two different
yeah.
things.
So electronic repair
Yeah.
and electronics,
Okay.
and then history.
Yes. Studying
Mm-hmm.
history and film history,
Yeah.
good.
Navigate.
What's navigate for?
Navigate is basically kind of like a ranger in D&D where you're tracking stuff, so your ability to find things and follow them.
Okay. Is there like a human insight kind of thing? You know, like insight in D&D where you have the ability to kind of judge people? Because here's why I'm thinking. Or maybe just listen.
Yeah.
So I feel like I agree with you on your call for the film things for the first 5, but then I wonder if maybe each person, do they also get to pick a couple other skills,
Yeah.
non-occupational?
So every character besides the 8, technically it's only 7 because one of the ones that you also fill out is credit rating, which is just how much money that you have, which sometimes matters, sometimes like in this game it won't matter. And then besides that, every individual character gets 4 skills that are non-occupational, and they function a little bit differently. So any of the skills that are occupation related, they give you, like with your original
More
stats,
percentage?
you have any of the ones that are filled in for occupation, just like your stats at the top,
Yeah.
they give you a set number that you just replace the stat with them. So you have 170%, 260, 350, and 340.
Okay. So here's my question then. For a film person, I think, like I said, those first 4 totally make sense. First 5 totally makes sense. But I wonder if maybe something else related more to like research, if you're doing documentaries or interviewing people,
Yeah.
like persuade or listen.
Yeah, I have persuade as one of them
Okay,
too.
persuade totally makes sense. Because, producers have to persuade people. You have to persuade people on set to
Yeah.
give you permission.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then the other one besides navigate, which we can talk about, I put spot hidden, just your ability to
Sure.
look and do something and
Yep.
find something. that-
Looking for cool footage.
yeah,
All right, that totally makes sense.
yeah, and then the other one I was thinking about instead of navigate would be psychoanalysis, which is pretty much kind of your insight role.
Yes. Is psychology insight or
Yeah.
psychoanalysis?
Psychology is, I think, the way that I interpret it is psychology is more of the, like education based. Like, do you know how that stuff works? Where psychoanalysis is, to me, like insight, like being able to analyze what's going on with
Okay.
people.
I'm also going to suggest fast talk. But that could be an individual skill. So let's agree that psychoanalysis would be the last one, right? So we have spot hidden, psychoanalysis, persuade, history, electronic repair, that's 6, computer use 7, arts and craft 8.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how do I assign those things again?
So the scores that follow are one of them you get to pick is 70. So whichever one you think. I ended up putting electronics under occupation for 70. But it's one of those things where I think you can assign them a little more individual based, because like those are the things that you're good at.
Okay.
But
I'm gonna say that as a professor, I'm gonna say that actually my history of cinema is probably the strongest.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put my 70 in that. So do I write 75?
You would write just 70.
Just
so
70.
these are just completely replacing
I see
the
what
scores.
I see. So they're not cumulative.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what's the next one I get to assign?
The next one is you have 2 skills that are at 60.
Okay, so I'm gonna do art and craft for my filmmaking ability at 60. And then I would think that maybe persuade as like a person who's a producer and has to talk people into stuff would be at a 60. Okay, and then what?
And then you have 3 that are at 50%.
Okay, I'm gonna say for 50, it would be the tech skills. So it would be electronic repair, electronics, and computer use, because having worked in the school for so long, he's had to become very familiar with the video equipment and editing. All right, what's after that?
And then the last 3 are at 40.
Okay, so psychoanalysis becomes 40. Spot hidden becomes 40. What am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something. Okay, so I have 70, 60, 50, 50, 50. Oh wait, I have
There
two
should be-
60s.
yeah, two
Yeah, 2 60s, 50, 50, 50, 40.
Oh, and then credit rating is one of the ones where you would
Okay,
put
so
that.
credit rating
Yeah.
would be my 40. Okay, so now I'm done. Then what about the personal skills you said? We
Yeah.
get to assign how many and how much point values?
So every individual character gets 4 individual personal interest skills.
Okay,
And for those ones, the way that you would do it is you would mark it. So like I just put 1/ through the personal ones to differentiate. And instead of replacing them, you would just take whatever number's right next to it and add 20% to it.
okay, so I'm in a bit of a quandary because my guy's going to be a French film professor. So language own is just your education. So that's 80.
Yeah, so that I usually just put as English, and then
But mine,
under
my
it-
secondary language is going to be English.
okay,
So
Yeah.
I have to put, you said 40? Or how much point value do you
it's
get?
plus 20%.
Plus 20%. So my native language is French. I'm stupid. And my native language is French, which my education is an 80. English is a 21. So I have every time I speak English, I'm going to have to throw a whole lot of French into it. And then I took listen and library use, and that's it for me. What personal interest skills did you guys pick for those characters?
So for the intelligence character, they have personal interest skills in archaeology, library use, medicine, and science. And then for the jock character, they haven't been fully decided yet, but
We should make him like the camping and hunting and hiking guy.
Yeah,
So I was
like,
thinking-
firearms, fighting,
Fighting-
Well,
survival.
survival
yeah,
for sure,
Fighting, brawl, survival.
and stealth. Maybe although he doesn't have firearms.
Yeah. 'cause
That's
no one
fine.
has
Maybe
firearms.
he was like a Boy
Yeah.
Scout, so he's
And
not
then-
so much a killer and a hunter as he is like,
Yeah.
I know how to camp and handle being out in the woods.
So the way that I put his things were survival, track, fighting, brawl, and intimidate.
Yeah, good. That's great. And then what about you, Jenny?
And then the cheerleader split between like her athletic stuff and her charisma stuff. So she has it in jump and dodge, as well as charm and fast talk.
Okay, that's great. That's perfect. All right, and then towards the bottom, your damage bonus and build and dodge, all that comes from a table, right, Jordan? So we took our strength and size to determine our build, and you look at those numbers added together on the table. So in my
Yes.
guy's case, my strength and size was 120, which gave me a build of
None.
none,
Yeah. So
and a
it
damage
was-
bonus of none.
Yeah.
And then my dodge is determined by taking half of my dex.
Yes.
So I have a 20.
Mm-hmm.
And how about you guys?
So the intelligence character has damage bonus 0, build 0, and a dodge of 30. And then the jock, if you add his strength and size together, that's 150, which means that he has a damage bonus of an extra d4 when they make a successful attack. And then the build would count as 1. And then the
Okay.
dodge, which is half of dex, would be 25.
All right. And how about you, Jenny?
And then cheerleader, normally half of her dex, her damage bonus and build as well is also 0, but half of her dex is 35, but I also, because I made one of her special skills dodge, I added the 20% to that, so she actually has a 55 in dodge.
Nice. All right. And then on the second page, we determined that this is the backstory section, which is personal description, ideology, significant people, meaningful locations, treasured possessions, traits, and that's all stuff that we as players can fill out, right? We can give the information to kind of round out our character, but that as the game master, you're gonna need to know so that you can kind of craft things around some of those things and incorporate that into role playing. And then we talked about, for your determination, the bottom two for arcane tomes, spells, and artifacts, and encounters with strange entities, that we are. What are we doing with that? We're not doing anything?
Yeah, so we're starting everyone off not in any possession of arcane anything, and then encounters with strange entities, because this is just a normal college, university with normal college people that no one's had any encounters with anything of the supernatural nature.
Okay. And then there's other information there, gear and possessions, cash and assets, which are important for an ongoing campaign, which this might turn into, who knows. But for the initial start of it, you're going to kind of assign reasonable equipment for people to have when they're going out on a weekend film shoot / camping trip. So there will be all sorts of like film equipment and supplies and basic like camping supplies and food, right?
Yeah, and nobody starts off with any weapons or anything like that. And then cash and assets, I've decided, because of the nature of the game that we're playing, that for this Halloween live stream, they don't matter.
Right, and that makes sense. All right, that's it. That's the speed round through the session 0. Next time we're at the table, you will see Jordan sitting in the throne, and I will be playing Professor Jean-Pierre Dupont, who speaks very how you say English. So thank you for watching. Peace out. Bye.